right. Thank you, Mr. Tanay, for joining us for this session of the CEO Insights. Really glad to have you part of this panel.
Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. So, to get started, Tanay, we would like to understand how would you best describe your leadership style? And if we go about asking some of your peers, what are the do's and especially the don'ts around Tanay? What do you think they'll say? So your leadership style and the do's and don'ts around you.
My leadership style is something, and I'll be honest, Rahul, it's something that I find continuously gets refined over a period of time. But the way I would look at it and the way I feel the most comfortable is to look at that leadership pretty much as an inverted pyramid. So my job is, when I say a leader, my job is what we typically call as that servant leader, to be able to assist and support the organization to go and do what it needs to be done. Is that blocker and tackler is essentially ensuring that the people who are closest to the decision making are empowered enough to make that. And then the cornerstone for that, to me, is trust. You know how in the early days, when you go into some of these developmental workshops, they would say, hey, why don't you put something against your name in there as well? And it should be an adjective in some sense that's with the letter that your name comes. And I found that word trustworthy, Tanay, to be a key cornerstone in the way I look and drive that. So that, to me, more collaborative, more engaging, more ensuring that we have the collective wisdom really going to help us achieve. And in the world in which we are today, I think the things change so rapidly, and to expect that there is just this one individual who will have all the answers, to me, is almost passé.
Super. And what are things that we can't do around you, Tanay?
I am, if I look at my MBTI score, I am more an I in terms of the ISTP in there. And I always mention that at work, I'm a trained extrovert. So I do at times come out as having a very serious demeanor. And so what you can't be doing around me is to play into that impression that would come in through in there as well. And so how do I keep and ensure that I have an open door policy? How do I ensure that I walk the floor and I'm able to really to participate with the team is what I really work through. But what you can't do is definitely tardiness. What you can't do is really bringing the professionalism to the work that you do. The discipline in some senses. And it may sound a little old school, but clearly to me, those are things that go a long way in terms of building who you are.
Wonderful. You mentioned trustworthy, Tanay. But if I go deeper, Tanay, what are some values that are very core to you? And, especially in a professional demeanor or in the professional workspace, how do you really go about displaying those values?
So, I at times when I'm asked that question, I go back to when I was all of that 20 or 21 and I started working. And I started working on the shop floor. My primary training has been that of an industrial engineer. And so this is back in 1990s, and with a stopwatch and a notepad of my own, doing time and motion studies in there. And it was overwhelming because you were standing right next to somebody who had more number of years of experience than the time you have spent on this planet Earth. And so I still remember, and this is like pre-mobile and pre-STD dates. And I still remember a letter my father had written to me, who I really respect as a leader and who's really demonstrated a lot of things that I hope to imbibe. And then many of those, and I still treasure that letter, many of those are things. So when I speak of trustworthiness and when I speak of trust being important, I think it's very important with our peer group. It's very important within our team. But I also feel it needs to be backed up with integrity and consistency. So it can't be spikes and situations that you have, but how do you demonstrate that integrity in what you do, and how do you demonstrate to consistently live your values in everything you do, whether it is a personal one-to-one interaction, whether it's a professional situation, whether it is an intense and a crisis-led project that is happening in there. Across all those situations, to ensure that you reflect that integrity and consistency, to me is important. I also, and honesty is a key part to be building that trust that you're doing. I would also put courage as a key value. And the courage is not courage in the natural way that most people talk. I will say courage in terms of understanding what is the right thing and then being able to follow that through. What more? Value, I would say compassion. Compassion towards our team, compassion towards ensuring that it is success to our customers, ensuring towards the community that we are in, and not in a condescending way, but compassion in the way to essentially put your best foot forward, ensuring that you reflect that professional attitude that you bring to the table to really take that further. So those are some of the things that I draw from that note that my father had written that I hold very dear to myself.
Wonderful, Tanay. You mentioned, of course, your father. Who else do you look up for inspiration?
Who else do I look up for inspiration? Plenty of people and in different forms and shape. I would say that they come in. I look up towards Amitabh Bachchan, and I look up towards Amitabh Bachchan for his resiliency of how he managed success, but then how he managed his failure in there as well. And I think in everything that we do, being able to reinvent yourself, be able to unlearn and learn new things, and being able to have that humility and humbleness, I think to me that is really important in there. If I look from my professional perspective, and I've had plenty of mentors during my tenure in there, and each one of them have brought me, what I've really liked is their ability to show me the mirror and help me become a better person on a day-to-day basis. If I drew on a book and I say, hey, is that really a role model? Richard Bach, and I like his writing, but Jonathan Siegel is one book that I find, which is to become better every day and just continuing to improve yourself. It's a really thin book. If you haven't read, I would strongly urge you to have a quick read. It won't take more than an hour, I would think.
Super. You mentioned your son before we started this conversation, Tanay. To all these 21-year-olds, this generation that is just joining the workforce, when you speak with them, Tanay, what is the most common piece of advice that you always find yourself giving to this generation?
So, by the way, I have two boys. It doesn't look that way, but I have a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old. One of them is off my payroll. The other is a year more to go, but both of them doing pretty well in that senses. And I think, in the roles that we are, I don't think the younger generation who's coming in is really like, I am the father and you are my son or daughter in that form and shape. And I think that isn't really true in the way most of our urban families have been developing within the country or globally in there as well. And I don't know when is that point, but pretty much there comes a point at which they graduate into becoming more a friend and more an equal. And yes, you have your own experiences that you want to be sharing it there, but they are pretty vocal in terms of their experiences, and they are pretty vocal in terms of, I think it's the general upbringing that we have all actively supported in terms of being an equal in what we bring in there. If I had to be putting, and when they were much younger, and in school, I would say that, your hard work, your effort, your dedication, and no cheating is what I would have told them when they were at school. But as they come in, I think my key part of it is to explore and find what you really, really enjoy. If I go back generations, and I'm not just talking about my generation, but if I talk about my previous generation, and I go back to my father's story, one job, one organization, one location, one house, pretty much that was about it. The biggest change that came is probably our house getting repainted. Now, when we got into the workforce, maybe it would have been there in that form and shape. But over the last many years, 10, 15, 20, we've seen, if anything, the speed of change has become a lot more accelerated than what it was. So if I had to give somebody coming in, I would say, hey, your learnability, your ability to go and try different things, do something that you're passionate about, and constantly rebuilding yourself is a key thing. Just as you get into a new position or a new job or a new responsibility, shirking it off to say, hey, not this, and I do something else, I think you need to give a bit more of that time to build on it and then go on to relearn and do other things in there as well. So that's where my head would be. But I think they are the ones, there's a lot of reverse mentorship happening. And they are the ones who are coming in and helping us unlearn. Every day at work or even at home, I get to learn something new.
Super. A hypothetical situation now, Tanay. Let's say you're interviewing a candidate for a senior position and you have very limited time and you can only ask one question to determine if the candidate is a right fit or not. What would be the question?
Trying to draw somebody, you mentioned senior position, trying to draw somebody's experience to one question or one response is a really tough one. And I know you mentioned it's a hypothetical situation in that senses. And if I had just one question to ask, I would really ask that person of that one situation, one event that has had the most impact over the last 5, 10, 15 years, and then draw on that to tell why is that event or why is that situation the most important, and what was really the outcome and what was the learning for that individual in that senses. And the reason I speak 5, 10, 15 is, there could be events even more and beyond that. But if I'm interviewing somebody more senior, I'm definitely wanting to hear over the recent past what have been those situations in there. But like I mentioned, you can't really narrow down to one question if you're making that decision. And I know it's a hypothetical one.
Sorry, Tanay, but I feel like asking the same question to you now. What was that situation?
I've dug myself into this corner, I've painted myself into the corner in there as well. And it is a tough one. Are you going to box me in that 5, 10, and 15 years in there as well?
Yes.
So, I would say it's a series of events. But if I look at myself for the last 15 years or a little more, I think I've done 4 very distinct jobs. And that has been really the best for me. I've been here in Allstate, really a great organization. You are in good hands, truly believing in terms of how we support our customers, how we support our team members, and just being able to demonstrate our key values, driving transformation from really the front. But these are all mixtures of what I say in these 4 different jobs, each getting me to do something very distinct and different, each getting me into a situation where in year 1, it was pretty much, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm shivering right from the front and having that nervous excitement of learning something new. I think it was only in the 2nd or the 3rd year that I would have gone to really reap benefit for the role and for the organization that I was in. But for me personally, getting these distinct opportunities have gone a long way. It has helped me learn new things. It has been able to help me unlearn things. It has really put me on that boundary towards challenging myself. Even as I shifted from my previous organization into this one, in some senses I'm in the broader BFSI space, but moving from that banking to an insurance space. In the last 2.5 years, close to 3 that I've been here at Allstate, that's really what I've been finding so exciting. something new, transformative to really look towards driving, helping my own self learn a new thing, but then also being able to rebuild new muscles for ourselves. And we've been in the country here for more than 10 years and almost 90 and more across the globe. But that DNA of constantly transforming is to me the biggest event and the biggest learning.
What, according to you, makes a great manager? What are the skill sets, the key competencies, capabilities? And this is not necessarily Allstate. This could be any middle manager. What do you think makes a great manager?
I know at times that term manager and leader gets a little confusing in there as well. In terms of, so when you speak about a middle manager, the way I'm hearing it is the first time, or maybe not the first time, maybe somebody who's just about graduated from becoming an individual, who's becoming an expert individual contributor, to be more a person or a manager who's really managing outcomes and managing a team in there. And at different stages in there, maybe not the first time, maybe somebody who's been really practicing this for a while in there. I just share my own personal journey. I think what got me into that position for the first time clearly must have been my excellence at what I was doing. As that strong individual contributor, demonstrating all that qualities that you require of being proactive, going out and supporting the other team members, becoming more proficient in what they do, ensuring that the quality of outcome that you're bringing to the table a lot more. And so you graduate into becoming, hey, here you go, try this out, become and help get the team up and going in there as well. My personal learning, and that's been there for a period of time, is it's no more your own personal brilliance that's really going to get you that success, but it is that collective brilliance of that team that's going to get you that success. So all those things that get spoken most of the time, but really require us to go back to our fundamental level and understand is, how do you make that team work? How do you really go and invest in every individual in your team and being aware about their aspirations and understanding what will get them the success? Where do you really invest in them in terms of skill or capability building, in terms of boosting their confidence, in terms of ensuring that they are well supported, or being able to manage the expectations, not just of the team, but towards that customer, whether internal or external, to the outcome that is expected out of it. And then being able to balance to that outcome to the piece that we are really building, and building for the future, not just for the moment in there to the task. And I also feel, IDEF, which is a process, I'm an industrial engineer, so process mapping is every analogy that I may end up giving. But how you have that activities and tasks and process. I think as a manager as well, when you are graduating, you're graduating on that maturity level in there as well. And you're graduating away from managing an activity or a task to managing more the process. And then from there, you're graduating yourself to be managing more outcomes or goals in that form and shape. And as you continue to grow, it is more laying out not just the goals, but the vision for that organization in there as well. So to me, that's also a maturity level or a framework somebody could look towards to say, hey, what is really important for me? And so if I've graduated away from a task or an activity into a process, then what's the health of the process? And then what are the inputs and outputs that are required in there? What is the support that I need? What are the controls that I have that I need to be putting in place to be making it better? How do I ensure that the customer and the supplier both are supporting me to ensure my process is the best? I'm using an analogy. Maybe that's not really how you translate it for a manager, but it's just a framework to think what is important for me as a manager, and where do I need to be putting my money, my effort, and my time to help get the most or a high-performing team up and going. So I'll pause.
Thank you, Tanay. We can all see you're in good hands written here. If you could help us understand what is your vision of Allstate India, and at least for the next 5-10 years? How would you best define it? And then your approach as a leader to really cascade that vision down to the team.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I've got into this role, you probably know, Rahul, over the last 3-4 months, I think I've been lucky to have inherited a very strong foundation to what we've been doing in helping fly the flag of Allstate. Allstate's been well acknowledged both internally but externally within the industry. We partnered with People Business and with great managers in a program in there as well. And so our investment in our people continue to be a primary thing, the way we look towards building talent for ourselves and continuing to reap on the strong foundation. But to your question in terms of what is the vision in here, and internally as well, that's a question that keeps coming to me as I've taken this role. I think for us, the vision is just one common vision. And that vision is of one Allstate, irrespective of the market and the geography that we are in. So if I really look for ourselves from an Allstate perspective, we are an insurance company, yes. From a market perspective, US is the primary market that we are in. But then as we look towards it, it is really in our journey to ensure that we work towards supporting our customers, especially at a time when they are the most traumatized. Imagine for a minute somebody meeting with an accident on a road or a weather condition kind of uprooting their house. That's when they end up calling Allstate. And our vision is to be that partner and that supporter to help our customers get through that in that point in time. And so everything we do across the globe, not just from a profitability and a growth perspective, but in terms of our transformative growth is in that direction. How do we make it easier for somebody to protect themselves? And across the larger circle of protection, how do we really go and ensure that in that moment of truth, they are well protected and their pockets are full, especially from a monetary perspective as they face that. And that's true for us here in India and there as well. So if I really look the way we do, whether it is to ensure that we reach out to our customers directly, if we use technology, then how do we really ensure that that technology is in a true blue product-centric operating model to be able to support our customers, to ensure that they have the power in their hands, whether through a digital device or whether through their computers to be able to go through it. Or even in terms of the way we service our customers, how do we really ensure that when they come for us for claims, we pretty much quickly are able to provide them a seamless experience. And that's a primary thing for us across the globe. That's true for the teams that we have in here. Now we are spread across Pune and Bangalore. Internally, Allstaters, 8,000 of them doing multiple different things, everything from data analytics and insight to underwriting work that we do or risk management work we do or helping people from a policy administration or a claims perspective or a technology perspective. All of that pretty much lines up. But I also think we are also at that point in our life cycles where we are graduating from maturity level X to a maturity level Y and truly becoming integrated as a one Allstate across the globe. And so we've always been Allstate, but how do you really integrate that? How do you really have a global talent pool that's working towards, boundaryless, geography-wise, really not getting impacted to the end outcome that we look to be delivering? How do we really ensure that we don't put the organization to risk and continue to drive that? How do we have value coming out of what we do? And I go back to that activity, task, process, goal, and vision level. Clearly, that vision is to have that one Allstate and ensuring for our end customers we do what is best. And those enablers for us here, whether it is in terms of managing a process better or using technology better or providing the insights, we have a clear goal in that direction.
Thank you, Tanay. I think very simply put and easy to understand for everyone in and out of Allstate. Just the last question, Tanay. How would you best describe yourself in one adjective?
There you go. I kind of started with that right?
Yeah.
So trustworthy, Tanay, I would still stick with in there. But if I had to expand on that trustworthy part to it, that integrity flavor is what I would bring in. That wisdom, that courage, and that compassion is what I would bring in. Those becoming the legs of that stool. But if one word, I'll stick with trustworthy, Tanay.
Super. Thank you so much.
I like the ring of it.
It does have a nice ring to it. Thank you, Tanay. This was lovely, a wonderful, candid conversation. Thank you so much for your time again and being part of the CEO panel for the Great Manager Awards.
Thank you.